Welcome to What Your Dad Didn't Teach You About Women with Daniel Fengler on the 18th of February 2010.
Father God, as always, we need your help, and Lord, we ask for your help again tonight and in the weeks ahead. Just help us to understand women better and to be more charitable with what's the things that are important to them that may not be important to us. And so help us as we talk about romance tonight. What does that mean to both the guy and to that lady? And we would just put that all in your hands and give us ears to hear. Amen.
Amen.
So, for those of you that just walked in, we're just talking a little bit about the brain wiring test for women. I had another response back from a lady who did it, and she said her and her husband only had 10 questions the same, answers in the same, so I'm not sure if they were surprised by that or not, but that's pretty normal. So, any other feedback from any of you about what happened? Huh? Yeah, what we haven't got there yet.
My wife language is called the same.
What's that?
My wife language is called the same.
Is that right? So you're somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, I got 100, last was 110, 120, and she got 120.
Okay.
But she's a scientific person, so
Yeah. So
it's training that actually does it.
that's it. So we'd expect that, as I said, the nurses and the professional women are going to be more rationalists because of their profession. But the interesting thing is to scratch under the surface. So even someone whose daughter might be 75, there's still going to be the actual brain wiring itself is still going to be such that there's going to be some real female characteristics to it. Emotionality, expression of emotions. So, and this is what I'm trying to say about this little girl thing that I keep talking about. The woman can appear really scary on the outside, formidable, organized, effective, et cetera, but there's still that vulnerability underneath. And even a woman who's down below 100 on that scale is still going to have emotional times that perhaps the guys aren't. So we have this mixed basket that we're just averaging here when we're doing this test, and just be careful that you don't put too much emphasis on it. Any other questions before we start in? Okay, no urgent questions. Well, get your sheet out there about tonight's topic, which is romance. And tonight we're going to talk about what my dad didn't teach me about romance. My father, this was some of my dad's romantic ideas, was on my mother's birthday, he would give her a pair of pliers. Pliers. Or a screwdriver or a hammer. That was his idea of being romantic on her birthday. And it infuriated her. For two things. One, the guy didn't have a clue about what my mother wanted. And secondly, to add insult to injury, and this is a true story, sadly, and I'm a chip off the old block, I used to be like this myself, and to add insult to injury, he would then, when he'd lose his hammer, go and nick hers.
That's why he gave it to her.
And actually, I think that's exactly right. That's why he gave it to her.
Well, she should have worn lipstick.
Yeah. That would have been interesting. That would have caused a few sparks. I mean, where do we learn these things? Well, as we keep saying about why you guys are here, if our dads don't take an active role in teaching us these things, you're going to wind up learning it the hard way and having to reinvent the wheel. I mean, what's the point of civilization if every generation has to learn a whole lot all over again? without mums and dads teaching them some of the basics. So it's just sad that this is happening. And brethren, it ought not be so, as James says.
Do you think it's something with the sort of era that, I'm going back, quite a while now, that they grew up in, when you didn't show the emotions in public, the way people are, it's now...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My father grew up in an aristocratic house that were very, very wealthy. And I guess, if I could put it this way, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, kind of thing. And they had the servants and the whole deal. And you didn't show emotions in his generation. And especially in the German culture, it was very formal. So there's a formal address to an adult, and there's a formal address to your own father when you're showing respect. As opposed to the cuddly abbot father sort of concept of daddy. So his culture caused that despising of emotion, and the male culture emphasized it as well. So it just wasn't. He didn't know, and why would he know if his dad didn't teach him? And my dad's father died. Not real early, but he died relatively young, I think 40 or 50 or something. So, but part of it is, and all of these things are reasons. It's just like the God stuff. Repentance of sin. God says, you're a weak race. You're fragile. You make mistakes. I've come to die for all that. Those are the reasons, but they're not the excuses. And I think the same with my father. He didn't really I don't think really want to investigate it too thoroughly how to be a good dad. He was too busy working, earning an income, putting bread on the table. And I think most guys take that very seriously about earning an income and providing for the family, and you can dig a hole. You can dig a hole doing it. My older brother is a millionaire, and he was a tree farmer, and by buying blocks of land to grow trees, as suburbia crept out into his holdings, he's now a suburban developer. So he's very wealthy. And this is what he said to me. He said, Daniel, I'm working really hard so that I have enough money when we retire so we can take the cruises and to do all this, to chill out and have a good retirement. And so he worked his butt off. And he was a professional scientist, food scientist, and then he ran this tree farm, which got, by the way, Newsweek, so he was very successful. And he made his millions, but here's the problem. He worked his wife to death, literally. She divorced him, and then she died soon after of a disease. So, where is the quality of life for her, or for them, when he worked himself almost, as well as her, into the grave? And that's the problem, I think, with the rationalist. Guys, if you're one of these rationalists, the problem with that is, and I've been guilty of this myself, as you know, is I can get so focused on something, thinking that that is the reality, when it's only a small part of the reality. There's actually other things. Let me, I think I'm going to repeat this diagram with you next time, but let me just show you this diagram. I don't think I've shown it to you before. Does that look familiar? And in the work that I do, I'm not a physical doctor, of course. I'm not an MD. But I guess you could say, as a psychologist, I'm like a spiritual, psychological doctor. And so in my profession, I work with four main areas. I work with the logic, I work with the spirit, the emotion, and the heart. Those are the 4 things that I work with in other people. Okay? Now, and I'm leaving the physical off because that doesn't apply to what I do. But, you know, if I looked at my dad would be, and this might not be totally fair, but just on the surface, this is how he came across. My dad came across as 95% logic, 5% emotions, and 0% spiritual. Arch rationalist. Yeah.
I don't understand where the heart comes in. What is heart?
Heart is an unconscious area. Freud called it the unconscious. We would call it the heart. You know, Jeremiah 17:9. The heart's deceitfully wicked above all things, beyond cure. Who can know it? If you're familiar with modern psychology, they would call it perhaps the inner child. So this heart thing is too complicated for me to tackle. Actually, that would be another really good topic if we wanted to do this immense thing, talk to Doug about it, but to actually talk about the heart. Because to me, it's a critical issue with regard to human beings' personal growth, is having some idea what that's all about and how to do it. So I'm just going to leave the heart out for the moment and just look at these other 3 things. So on that level of those 3 other things, my dad was 95% logic, 5% emotional, 0% spiritual. Now, if that hypothetically is a balanced human being, what can we say about my dad? Not a balanced person. You know, single focus. And sure, as an engineer, he was a very good engineer. Worked for Ford Motor Company. Any of you that have ever driven some of the older Cortinas, my dad invented the gearbox, designed the gearbox for that.
I think it depends it depends how you want to judge your father, because he's very focused. He's perfect for the job he's doing.
This is true, but
So
then
if
he
you're
got
his
married.
employer, you'd say fantastic, but it depends how you judge him.
Okay, but this is what we're talking about here. We're talking in terms of relationship now, aren't we?
Yes.
You know, he was good at his job, and some of you are very good at your job because you're really focused on what you do, and you've got certain skills. But when we're talking about relationship stuff, I need a broader perspective. That's why I'm raising this right now. I need a broader perspective than that. He brought that to relationships, and sure, I need a logical component in my relationships. My dad's finances between him and my mom, they always were in order because they made it all work. So on a practical level, I learned a lot of skills from my dad, which I really appreciate. But relationally, there's a saying amongst counselors and psychologists of A abuse and B abuse. A abuse is the absence of good things. B abuse is bad things happening to you. My dad, I didn't experience bad things happening to me, but what I did experience is the absence of good things. The absence of some sort of emotional input, training, because one day I'm going to be married to a woman that's going to need that. And the good news in a perverse way is my dad showed me a lot of things not to do. I do not give my wife a pair of pliers for her birthday. We're going to get into that in just a little bit in a moment, okay? And I was a chip off the old block. When I went to uni, I can see now that I went in as a mechanical engineer. I had the slide rule on my belt. Serious stuff. And I thought all these guys that had emotions, there was something wrong with them. I thought, man, what sort of place is this jungle called uni, where there's guys that actually cry and stuff? I was just amazed. And I thought, in my arrogance, that there was something wrong with them. And what I'm trying to say to you guys now is, no, it's the reverse. This is the guy that's rigid and narrow. So actually, the first thing that happened to me at uni is I started growing in that emotional area. That was my first growth spurt, would be, say, about third year uni. I was doing some psych courses then and so on. And I learned, you know, in a university course that I was, you know, that I had some problems. Now I wasn't taking that to find that out. That was just a byproduct. I just really had a talent for this stuff and really enjoyed doing it, which is why I then got a degree in psych. Not until 33 that I became a Christian. So further down the track, I'd add emotional growth, and then I'd add spiritual growth, and if I could say, show you where I am at today, it would sort of probably look like this. That's the Daniel of today. So what can we say about this guy compared to this guy? And I'm saying I used to be that. So, you know, I'm not saying that my dad is a bad person. You know, we've talked about we are who we are. On that scale, the brain wiring scale, you are where you are. You can change that to some extent. If you wanted to be more intuitive, you could learn how to pray, you could learn music, you know, you could do intuitive activities that would take you in that direction, if that was important to you. And I'm not even saying that it should be important to you. My only claim is that you need it in order to interrelate with women. That would be my claim, that you need that emphasis. So what can we say about this guy? Would you say that he's more well-rounded than this guy? Sure. No doubt about it. Paul talked about being, in witnessing to people, being all things to all people. And because I've got spiritual and emotional skills beyond the logic, I can relate to most people. Not just on an intellectual basis. Now one thing that these sort of characters will say when they see this is they'll go, yeah, but you had to give up some logic in order to grow spiritually or emotionally. That's what it looks like. But that's not what actually happened. What's happened is, I have grown. My cake here, my pie is bigger than it was over here. I've grown. So I've added, you know, if we took the area under of that thing there, that pie chart, and that there, my claim would be that I'm just as logical as I ever was. What's happened is I've grown spiritually and I've grown emotionally, and I'm a bigger person now. More well-rounded and bigger. And one of the things I just recommend to you guys is not to be threatened by the stuff that we're talking about, but to grab a hold of it and make a determination that you're going to grow. With God's help, you're going to grow to be a bigger person. And whenever I'm following Jesus and trying to become more like Jesus, will I become more relational? Who's God? He's love, isn't he? God is love. And if I become more like Jesus, will I become more relational? Sure. If I become more like Jesus, can I grow from there to there with God's help? Would that be closer to what Jesus looks like? Sure. Jesus was a balanced person that had a logical, an emotional, and spiritual aspects to him. And he wasn't just a one-dimensional sort of person like that. So this is important because if I have empathy with people that are emotional, and I've learned how to be emotional myself, then I'm more likely to pick up on those subtle signals that say, from my woman, that say, hey, don't give me a pair of pliers again for my birthday. I think my dad did learn that particular lesson after many years of wondering why on her special day it was always a disaster.
Perhaps you told him.
I think you learned that lesson before I had any idea of how this thing works.
But couldn't it work that way? Seriously, you know, that a child, you know, as it could say, don't think Mum liked those pliers you gave me. You know, that's the sort of thing a child
I could have.
Without realising.
Absolutely, Jack. And, you know, as I shared with you guys, I taught my dad how to hug. So I consider that progress.
Yeah.
But, and this is where my own background limitations came in. No one can see except what you see. The only reason we can see anything clearly is because God gives us eyes to see. You know, so I was just as guilty as him with regard to my mother. As I said, mothers are these special beings that we don't really think of them as women. We think of them as, there's mom and there's my sisters, and then there's women out there in the real world. Instead of thinking, I could actually practice honoring my sister. You know, as a woman. I could actually interact with her and ask her what's important to her and get some clues from my sister so that when I have a girlfriend, I've actually got some clues about it. I didn't do it though. You know? It's a shame there aren't some younger guys here because that would be one of my messages to them is, you know, learn to treat your mother with respect and your sisters and practice what it's like to be a guy in a woman's world with them. Make your mistakes there before you make them out in a big world. Right.
I was just reflecting on that, and I really think it comes back to what you said last week or week before. Your dad plays a big role in teaching you that too. Because I didn't understand that as a child.
That's it. Okay, let's go to your sheet. One of the fascinating things, and again we're looking at the continuum of rational and intuitive to some extent. It keeps coming up. Is on the rational side, the point system, and on the intuitive side, the point system are very different. How many of you, when you're a little tacker, got, say for Christmas or your birthday, a pair of undies, a pair of socks, and a handkerchief, or something similar to that, and you were really annoyed that you didn't get a real toy? That was me. A few of your hands raised. That was me. What did we want? I wanted a bicycle. Or I wanted a model airplane. And instead, I get a pair of socks and a pair of undies and a handkerchief. True story. And it really bothered me. Why is my mom, doesn't she get this? And here's why. Because in female culture, everything is worth a point. So you get a present for a little knick-knack, a little insignificant thing. In their world, that's a point. A kiss is worth 1 point. And guys, I actually had this happen in the counseling session. I was talking with this couple about this point system, where in female culture, everything is worth a point. Their saying is this: it's the thought that counts. That's female. Remember we said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? That's male culture. Female culture is, everything is the thought that counts. So when my mom gave me the socks, in her mind, it's the thought that counts. So Daniel should be grateful for the socks, for the undies, for the handkerchief, because in her world, that was 3 points right there. If you want to bless a woman, and I'm talking about the intuitive type women now, if you want to bless a woman, don't give them one thing for the birthday, give them 3 smaller things for the birthday. You might be saving up for that diamond necklace, and this gets back to this counseling session I had. As I was talking to this couple, the guy turned to the woman and said, you know, you have never really thanked me for that diamond necklace. And she goes, it was nice, I liked it. And he goes, yeah, but, you know, it cost me a fortune. It cost me $1,000 for this diamond necklace. And it staggered me. Her next response was this. Let's call him Fred. Fred, it was worth as much to me as a passionate kiss. You should have seen his face. What? See, I spent all that money, and it's only worth a kiss? Why didn't I give you the kiss? And she goes, why didn't you? Whoa. This guy thought that he could buy her love with a $1,000 gift. Now he's trying. I'm not having a go at this guy. He's trying. He's trying to work out how does this thing work. But in their world, a diamond necklace, listen guys, is worth 1 point. A kiss is worth 1 point. A pair of socks is worth 1 point. Now that doesn't work for us, does it? That doesn't work for us. How does our point system work? I don't think we're mercenary. I don't think you have to give me an expensive gift. I don't think that's the problem. But look, if you want to bless me and you decided to give me a drill, don't give me some Mickey Mouse $25 thing that'll break down in a week. Give me the Makita hammer drill that can punch holes through concrete. And the fact that it might cost $300, okay, it probably would, but the utility of it is what's important. So I wanted a bicycle. So if you're going to buy a gift for a rationalist type person, you pool together all the little gifts and buy one big one. Instead of all the daughters and sons giving them a handkerchief here and a pair of PJs there, you pool the money and you buy them the Makita drill. That'll bless his socks that he got from his mom at the last birthday. So we have this point system that's very different. Very different. So let's look at the point system.
I've got another one, sorry.
Yeah, Jack.
I don't want anything for my birthday, thanks. That's the message you've just been told. Don't buy me anything for my birthday. I don't need nothing I need. So what's your reaction? What would your reaction be to that?
Well, first of all, you're familiar with the 5 love languages. Have you ever read the book 5 Love Languages?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember it.
Okay. Well, one of the love languages is gifts.
Yeah.
Some people really feel valued when they receive gifts, and those are the sort of people that are likely to give you a gift too, because we tend to use the same love language that's important to us. So if my love language was gifts, which it's not, I might add, I could have come in here and put chocolate frog on each of your seats as a little gift from me to try to bless you. And you've been to various seminars where that sort of things happen because someone there has gifts as their love language. So Jack, 2 things. One is, the older we get, of course, we've accumulated some of this materialism, and I don't need another hammer drill. I've actually got 2 of them now. So don't give me a hammer drill. So after a while, it gets a little awkward. How do we give you something? Say, as a male, how do we give you as a male something that you really appreciate when you've got a storehouse full of tools already? My wife would love to give me a tool, but I got them all. Seriously, I can't think of, there's one. There's always one. But, I'm trying not to be greedy here. Let's go on to the point system. Physical touch. So what do you mean by that? Well, exactly what it says. Holding hands, hugs, and kisses. I have a couple right now. One of her biggest complaints is that her husband doesn't kiss her. Now, I haven't actually investigated what's underneath all that. That is, does he not kiss her at all? Or does he not know how to give a passionate kiss? I'm not real sure. But that's her complaint. That her husband doesn't kiss her. And there's plenty of women that will be represented by some people in this room where she wants you to hold her hand, and for various reasons you don't. Or to give her a hug, to give her a kiss. And of course, for some women, I think physical touch for most women is fairly important, but for some women, that's their primary love language. a challenge for you. I'd like you to discover, by talking to a woman, girlfriend, mother, sister, whatever, daughter, 3 things that totally touch their heart. Here's the homework. Ask a female to tell you the 3 top rating things that touch their hearts. And unless they're a rationalist lady, it's not going to be a diamond necklace or a trip to Europe. They like the diamond necklace, don't stop giving them diamond necklaces if you can afford it, or trips to Europe. But that's not what's touching their heart. I asked my wife this question, and here's the answer. Here's my woman's top 3. Number 1, and don't have to write this down because for your lady it's going to be somebody different. For my woman, here's the top 3, okay? Number 1 is when we're in bed and I put my arm around her and she talks to me. That's the top rating. Top rating. Second top rating, number 2, is when I put my arm around her while we're sitting on the couch watching telly. That's the second top. The third one is just getting plenty of hugs during the day. Just hugs.
Easily satisfied woman, isn't she?
Well, she is satisfied, and we're going to get into this tonight. What makes women satisfied?
She's home maintenance.
They are, actually. Can I say women are cheap to run? I've already said this to you. And some of you don't believe me, because you're still thinking that you need to give them diamond necklaces.
That your fraternity would like you to believe that.
Sorry?
The advertising industry.
Well, the advertising industry wants you to believe it, and male culture, because if you're a tool freak like me, a Makita drill is a lot better off than the GMC thing, or whatever it's called, from Bunnings. It's going to last long, it's going to do the job, and I'd much rather have the Makita than the GMC. So, because we know that, in our culture, we think that's how the women want it. But no, and this is where we're living with aliens now. It's very, 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 very different. Women actually, intuitive women are actually cheap to run. They are. Because they'll run on, it's the thought that counts. Now the things that's scaring you is, you probably know this, that women need 20 to 40 points a day to keep them healthy. And you sort of pick up on that. You get the complaint, you didn't hold my hand, or you didn't kiss me, or you didn't give me a hug, or you forgot to give me flowers for my birthday, or I never got a card for you for my wedding anniversary, or whatever. You're going to get those sort of complaints. And you go, oh, now, something else. As I said, I think last time to you guys, at a men's breakfast, I asked 150 men, do you feel like no matter what you do, it's never good enough? And 148 hands went in the air, my own included. And the other 2 guys were lying. Why? Because we don't actually understand them. That's the problem. We don't understand them. And because of that focus, we actually have struggles to broaden our, from the telescopic lens into the fisheye lens to actually see what's going on. We don't take the time to do it. Some of you are so busy earning an income, you don't have the time to do that. To sit back, reflect, think about it, pray about it, have some quiet time where you can just go, what exactly is going on here that I don't understand? And by the way, that's how you deal with it. You need some time out to spend some time with Jesus in prayer and say, okay, Jesus, I want to be a better husband, a better father, and I'm concerned about X, Y, and Z, and I don't really have a good handle on this thing. Because it seems like whatever I try doesn't work out. So you need some space, some solitude in order to reflect on these things. So, point system, physical touch. Second one, emotional touch. What's emotional touch? Listening to the woman's feelings, sharing your own feelings with her, listening to things that are important to her, telling her how much you appreciate or love her. Emotional touch. I was just reading a book. Was it a book or a movie? I can't remember now. And there was this comment made by the woman. The woman said, you guys, when you get married, you think all your Christmases come at once, you're going to have unlimited sex on tap for the rest of your life. That's what some guys think. And then they're surprised when it doesn't work out like that. Has it worked out like that for you? No. It hasn't worked like that for any of us. But you know, here's the opposite. What do women think? What's their fantasy? Their fantasy is that they're going to have a forever sleep, what's it called? Sleepover. Where they're going to be able to talk to the guy and he's going to listen to them forever, all night long, day after day, week after week, for the rest of their lives. They think that's what they're buying into when they get married. And do they? No. It doesn't happen like that, does it? You guys don't have the patience to do that. And God's not expecting you to. Those are fantasies. Both of those things are fantasies. They're not reality. They're not reality. So, we're not the only ones that are off base here, guys. 50% of this problem is with the ladies as well. We're not the only ones that don't know what's going on. They don't know what you are all about. They don't know about Makita drills and things like that. If their dad never told them about it. Why would they know? By the way, I've been approached by a few women around the place that do this sort of thing with the women now, which I'm hoping to do later on in the year. What their dad didn't teach them. Okay, special touch. Making a special effort in some way, including her in your world. Remember in some way when she least expects it, buying some sort of luxury for her. As I said before, universal humanity works like this. If I promise, under promise and over deliver, the other person will be satisfied. If I over promise and under deliver, we're going to be disappointed or angry. So, by all means, guys, give your woman a birthday card on her birthday, by all means. But can I say, you'll get even more points if you give her I love you, honey, for the rest of eternity card from nowhere. If you just get a card, not because it's any special day, but just because you've thought of it. Now guys, why is that worth more points?
Not expected.
It's not so much because it's unexpected, because women don't always like surprises. Some do and some
You're
don't.
thinking
It
of them.
wasn't scheduled.
You're thinking of them all the time.
I'm thinking about, remember back here I said about the fact that in this parallel versus serial interaction, that my wife has a 24/7 train track dedicated to me. I can't possibly compete with that. And so, but what I can do is every now and then I can get to the train station and move over here and start thinking about her and interacting with her. And because she knows I'm such a focused thinker, when I'm focusing on that and I choose to go over here, that's a blessing. I've thought of her. That will make her feel cherished and special, that I've thought of her. And if I've thought of her because it's her birthday, that's not unexpected, is it? That's just routine, almost. If I've given her a card saying, I love you, and it's got nothing to do with birthdays and anniversaries or anything, she goes, wow, the guy actually could jump out of his little telescopic lens into a bigger world where he thought of me, and I feel special. You with me? Guys, if any of you need some help in these sort of areas, can I say, don't go to the guy who's ruined his relationship with his wife for advice. You wouldn't go to the mechanic that's trashed his car, would you? Would you? No, you'd go to the mechanic that knows how to work on cars and make them go better. Don't go to the guy who didn't know how to figure out his own relationship for advice. Don't do that. Because you'll get some superficial answer from some, and it'll sound like this: just give her a bunch of flowers. Is there any time when it's inappropriate to give her a bunch of flowers? Yes, there is. You know when it is?
Valentine's Day.
No.
When she's angry.
When she's angry and she thinks you're buying her off with the flowers. She'll take it as patronizing. And you're likely to get the flowers flung at you. So, flowers are not a magic bullet that you can just whip out whenever something goes wrong. We're just going to whip out the checkbook. We're just going to whip out the flowers or whatever and buy her anger off with some treat. No, that's not romance. Now, it may work in your particular relationship occasionally, but we're talking about romance here. What romance is touching their heart, not their head. I might have told you this story about Valentine's Day was coming up, and I wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing. So I said, honey, Valentine's Day is coming up. Would you like me to give you something to just say that you're special to me? And I try to do something to make her special every day. So she's not too particular that once a year I have to do something special, because 365, 4 days of the year, I'm doing something special already. So I'm going to get to that, back to that in a minute. So I said, do you want me to give you a card? And she said, nah, don't bother giving me a card. Why waste $4? And I said, no, it wouldn't be a waste. It's wanting to bless you in some way. No, don't bother giving me a card for Valentine's Day. Now guys, there's a trap here. There's a trap here. Because male culture is literal. That is, what I hear actually is real. In the female culture, you can have a yes that means yes, a yes that means maybe, and a yes that means no.
The last one's going to get you in trouble in court.
Yeah. Some of you guys would be better off in court. Rational judges. So what should I do? She said, don't buy the card. So should I obey her and not buy the card and save the $4? Or buy the card and take the risk?
You get body outside the race, cold water, love letter.
Always go with the heart, guys. Always go with the heart.
Don't ask her first. But
So I bought her the card. And guess what? I never heard any complaints about the $4 spent. Never heard any complaints. Because her head was saying, save the money. Her heart was saying, I want to feel special. And that's what you're looking for. Don't worry about what's going on up here. That's what when we're talking about romance, that's what you're looking for. Protective touch. And making sure she's never alone if she doesn't want to be. Remember, you got that 8-year-old girl that wants protection? I remember Susan and I were at a party one time, and I thought it was going really well. That we all enjoyed ourselves, and so I'm driving home all happy, and I got my head ripped off. What's this all about? She said, there was a guy who cornered me, who tried to chew my ear off. I couldn't escape. You weren't there for me. Bad news. All night long, you disappeared with the blokes over in the other corner. I never saw you all night long. Why would I want to go to a party when you're not there? When you're physically there but not present? So I got it from both barrels. Boom, boom. I thought, what on earth's going on here? The 8-year-old wanted me to be available to rescue her from the boar. And she wants to keep connection, even at the party. She wants to keep connection. So we made an arrangement, and this is our standing agreement, that at any party, every 20 minutes, I go and check in to see how she's traveling. So I'm allowed to go off with you guys, and this is self-imposed. I'm not saying that Susan has imposed this on me. I'm committed to looking out after this 8-year-old inside her. And so she needs connection every 20 minutes. So I'm going to excuse myself, wander off. Hey, honey, how you going? Good. Having some good conversations with some of the ladies? Yeah, great, you know. Enjoying yourself? Yeah, super. Whatever. Spend 5 minutes with her, and then I can go back off again and follow up on the footy or the car stories or whatever we're talking about. Okay. Number 5, spiritual touch. Praying with her, reading the Bible with her, leading her to church worship, getting together with other men to pray for her. You know, again, my wife, I know this to be true because I've lived with her for 35 years. She knows I'm here talking to you guys tonight. She's at home praying for me right now. That's just normal. That's just a lifestyle for her. It's not that she's going intellectually, you know, I better pray for Daniel because there's spiritual forces out there. And I better, if I don't pray for him right now, you know, the bad guys will get him. No. That's mind you, that is possible too. She should be doing it for that reason. But no, in her mind, it's just, this is just normal. Connection. Praying for me. Wanting to bless me. Investing spiritual life in me. That's just normal. And it touches her when I come out of that telescopic lens, and when I'm able to do that as well, when she knows that I've been praying for her. Practical touch, fixing things around the house, mowing the lawn, keeping petrol in the car. There's some women who are extremely grateful that you guys are around because, you know, mechanical things can get very complicated for some of these intuitives. They don't really understand about fluid dynamics, and that when you put a fan in that corner of the house, it sucks the air in through that door and that window instead of that one. Well, I still gets confused about where to put the fan. She knows it cools things down and blows the air around, but she hasn't really thought it through because she hasn't focused on the problem and hasn't been trained to focus on the problem. Where does the air go when you got a fan going? They appreciate you doing those things, those practical things. Okay, before we move on, how about let's just stop for about 10 minutes. And if you guys can grab a couple of other books and just spend some time talking about touch. Those physical, emotional, special, protective, and practical touches. Okay? We'll just stop there. Let's grab some other guys and share one of the comments is this 20 to 40 points a day is like pushing water uphill. But can I say, remember every point, everything is a point. So let me show you how I can get 20 points just at breakfast. It's not that difficult. It's not by saying I love you 20 times using words. It's by using actions and attitudes that you're going to do that. So it kind of works like this, okay? I've made it a plan that I get up every morning before my wife. That's worth a point. Why? Because she knows I'm at work as the head of the home. Before she gets out of bed, I'm already on the job. So 1 point already. I go for a walk. That's worth a point. Why? Because this person here, this intuitive person that's got me 24/7, is worried about my physical health. She's concerned that I should live as long as she does. She doesn't want me to die before. She does not want to be a spinster woman with a dead husband. And can I say, there's a stack of guys out there that are not looking after themselves, they're smoking or whatever, and their wives are terrified they're going to be a lonely old woman without their husbands. So it's worth a point already. Not because I'm doing it for myself, which I am, but because she sees that I'm looking after myself. All right, so that's 2. While I'm walking, I'm praying. I'm not necessarily praying for her, although I do, but I'm praying in general terms about all kinds of things. That's worth a point to her. Why? Because she wants me to be interactive with God. She knows that God, an active faith, is a practical issue that's going to make her life go better. So as I'm out walking and praying, that's worth a point. I get a point because I aim for 7 days a week and I manage it 5 days a week. So I'm not one of these Johnny Flash in the pans that makes promises that I don't deliver. Because I deliver, that's worth a point. I come home, and if she's already up, we'll have breakfast, but let's just say, hypothetically, she's not up yet, which happens occasionally. I come in and I make breakfast. That's worth a point. Now, I have the luxury of doing this, by the way, guys, because I don't have young packers or don't have children. So you're going to have to translate what this would look like for you. And I'm not saying that's easy. If you're off to work at 7, how do you do something like what I'm doing? Do you get up at 4 or something? So, you'll have to translate this into something that works for you. I'm just sharing with you so you can see the point system. So I make her breakfast. That's worth a point. I bring the breakfast to her in bed. That's worth a point. I hop into bed with her after I've woken her up, gently, which is worth a point. We have breakfast together. That's worth a point. She can chew my ears until she doesn't need them anymore. That's worth about 10.
You said this is going to be easy.
I know. There are some things, we're talking in generalities here. There are some things that are worth more than 1. There are. And that's one of them. Emotional protection, I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. That's worth about 10 points. Putting my arm around her while we're before or after breakfast. As I said, top rated. So I can get 20 points in before I even get out of breakfast mode. Now it's not. Notice I didn't once say I love you for those 20 points. Now, by the way, it's important to say to your woman that you love her. If you don't ever say it, she's not going to trust that you do. But when my wife says, I love you to me, it's like, if she's trustworthy, which she is, and she said it, it must be true for her, then it's like I lock it in, and you know what? I don't need to hear it again for 6 months. I don't. And sometimes when Susan's a bit concerned about me, and she thinks I'm under too much pressure or whatever, and she starts pouring on the grace, she'll say, I love you, I love you, I love you, so often, it's almost suffocating for me. Which we're going to get to, that's what that diagram's for in a minute. So, guys, you don't necessarily have to say, I love you 20 times. That's not what we're talking about here. It is getting out of that tunnel vision and getting outside of that to make connection with her. To get to know who she is. And we're going to go through the list in just a minute. Any questions on the point system? Yeah.
How long do these things accumulate for?
They don't.
When do you get to cash it in?
You don't. That's the thing I neglected to tell you.
So this
And
point
that
system
is-
sounds really good. There's lots of points floating around the air at the moment.
That's the good news.
Credits, debits, every credit has an equal cost. Debit now.
What he's saying is you haven't had to part with any cash just yet. It's got to be worth something.
The good news is everything's worth the point. That's the good news. The bad news is they're like sieves. The thing just It just, you pour it in and it dribbles out. When my wife says to me, I love you, and as I said, it works for me for 6 months. When I say I love you, it works for about a day or two. And then they need another helping. So it's constant maintenance in that way.
Can we plug the gap, Sam?
Can we get a meter like installed in the wall so we can see where we're at? Hang on that moment.
My dad always says to
Agree.
me, prevention's better than cure. How can we sort of plug the gap so we can just pour it out?
It's called relating, you just keep relating.
You have to enjoy the journey. You have to get to your head around it to go, okay, this can be work, but is it worth it? You might not say, you might say no. I get some guys who've had a failed relationship and I challenge them. I say, guy, if you want a relationship with a woman, you're going to have to get off your butt and learn some of these principles. You're entitled to stay single. You're entitled, everyone in this room, you're entitled to stay single. You're entitled to be a hermit on some island out in the Pacific. If that's what you want, there's no law against it. The issue is, if you take on the responsibility of a pet, you need to feed it and clean up after it and cause it not to die. If you get married, you've got the same job. You got to feed her, you got to clean up after the messes, and make sure she prospers and doesn't die on you. And this is going to sound horrible, guys, but I'm convinced that my older brother killed his wife. He didn't romance her. He didn't fill her love tank. He just worked her as a co-partner, as an equal, strong, sturdy pack mule, building this business of tree farming. And she was a bit of a tomboy. She could do those things. But that's not the point. The point is not the grown woman that can drive a tractor, which this woman could, or drive a skidoo, or cut down trees with a chainsaw. My brother saw that as this incredibly capable partner, that with him together, we're going to make this tree farm a success and make a lot of money. And they did that. The problem was he neglected the 8-year-old in there that wanted romance, wanted connection, wanted touch, wanted some time out, wanted to quality of life now, not just in the never. It's not surprising that she divorced him. It's not. It's not that women want something, guys, that you can't deliver. The problem is you don't see what the problem is. And some of you, and I'm not saying you personally here, but some guys don't want to know. They don't want to know. They'd be happy in a theoretically Muslim country where, you know, she has to work 8 paces behind the guy. Now, in the culture we live in, the women aren't going to settle for that. And I don't blame them. Okay, let's go to emotional protection. I want to just emphasize this because, as I said about letting Susan chew on my ears, that's probably a 10-pointer. Emotional protection. Men need to listen. 1, without judgment. Guys, if your lady says, this is important to me, what does that mean? It's important to her. Does it have to be important to you? No. If she says it's important to her, then guess what? It's important to her. Full stop, in a sentence, no discussion needed. Second, men need to listen without trying to fix things. Now, it's really hard. It is. It's hard. Because we're programmed to fix things. We're problem solvers. It gives us great satisfaction to solve problems. Somebody comes along and says, look, Fred, I've got this thing going and this isn't working really right. And what do you reckon? Oh, beautiful. Let's get into it. Let's find out what's going on. Let's fix this problem here. It's like winning a chess game. It feels good when you deliver on something. Now, the women do actually appreciate you being a Mr. Fix-It. As I said, you know, keeping the car running, make sure that, you know, the wiring in the house is safe and all that kind of stuff. But not when she's trying to tell you her feelings. So what do? When she's trying to, you say yes. Yep. Uh-huh. Okay. Sounds really important to you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Grunt. Grunt. As I said last time, here's the order. If you don't know what to do, say nothing. But then she might not think that you're interested if you keep your mouth shut. Second best thing is to grunt every now and then to make sure you're alive and that you're listening. The best is to actually engage with her and say, honey, why is this so important to you? What about this really gives you ecstasy or antipathy or whatever? Why do you get angry about this? Ask her. If you don't know, ask her. Your best resource is the actual lady that you're living with. Is your best resource. And if you don't trust that you're getting the real deal from her, you know, there are other women around that you can ask. And this is legitimate. To go to your mother or whatever, auntie, you know, my wife says this is really important to her. What do you reckon? And auntie will most likely go, you drop kick. It's important to every woman. Most likely. 3, without logical interruptions. Remember the two diagrams, the diagram we had? Emotional versus logical. The logical person's got to come into the emotional person's world. So don't make a logical interruption. That comes later. You get your chance for logic later, or you should have your chance. Number 4, by using door openers that encourage the woman to share her feelings. Instead of going, when she's sharing her feelings, no, please don't tell me your feelings. No, I'm in agony. Stop. You know, which some guys do. You need to go like this. Come on, I want to hear what you've got to say. I want to hear your feelings. Bring them on. I'm man enough to be able to listen to this without fading away. Bring them on. Listen to her feelings. And as I said, by saying nothing. If you don't know a positive thing to say, better to say nothing. Now, romance school. I want you to give me some romance principles. I'm not going to stand up here and be the expert for the whole night. I want you to think about this right now. Before you turn the page over, don't turn the page over, because I've given you some clues. I'm going to give you some details. And I've got a little booklet here. Crossway produced these years ago for their men's ministry, and they chucked them out because they produced a new lot, and I retrieved them. So these are some of the older booklets. And here's 10 affordable ways to rekindle your romance. Now the problem I have with this little booklet is, it's all about what you should do compared to the guy who wrote it. You know what? My wife does not like cut flowers. Believe it or not, there is a woman on the planet who doesn't like cut flowers. Have a guess why not?
She likes the real ones.
Because she likes the real ones that grow. She doesn't like dead flowers. So if you're going to give my wife some flowers, you give her a pot with the rose bush in it, not cut roses. Now that's how my lady's different from yours. That's unique to Susan. And although this is valuable, I don't want you to thinking in terms of giving your wife or your girlfriend flowers, although that often works, I might add. Chocolate works as well for most ladies. I want you to think of principles though. What are we trying to accomplish with romance? What is it? What's the guts of it? What's the principles that romance is built on? Give me some. I'm just going to work this out and make a list. Give me some principles.
Show that you care.
Okay, to show that I care, I'd like that to be a bit more intensive.
Well, show that you love her. You're prepared
Okay, that I cherish her. So in the scale of words, it isn't care, it isn't even love, it's that I cherish her. Okay? So 1, I cherish you. Do you understand what I'm using? Do you understand why I'm using the word cherish? Because they need to feel valued. Not just that, oh, you know, there's a nice lump of rock over there. It looks really good in this place. No. You know, it has to have some passion to it. It has to have passion to it. Yeah? And by the way, I just put that down. Needs passion. If you come along and you go, I'm going to be romantic with you because you need it. That's not going to go down well, guys. Why not? Because it lacks passion. You're doing it as a mechanical thing to get a mechanical result. You're going to tweak the knob here, foreplay, so that you can have effective sex. Now, that is necessary, I might add, foreplay for effective sex. But, you know, if you're doing that without passion, it ain't going to go very long. You're not going to be a long-distance dude. I don't mean just in the sessions, but over a lifetime. So passion. What else?
Develop intimacy.
Okay, so define for me what intimacy looks like.
Develop a much closer relationship.
All right, how do you do that?
Talking and listening.
Okay, so communication and touch. I mean, there's lots of types, but intimacy is where I'm hearing her share her feelings, and I'm sharing my feelings with her. I make this claim, and psychology bears it up, I can prove this to you from lots of studies, that human beings bond together when they share feelings. Share feelings. It's not sharing words, it's sharing feelings. It's not sharing problem solving, it's sharing feelings. If I say to Susan, I'm angry with you, it sounds really bizarre, but me saying I'm angry with you actually develops intimacy. It might be, you know, there might be some short-term pain in that initially, but it actually develops a bonding between two people who are honest with. Remember, in John it says we're to be children of light, bring everything up into the light. When I bring my feelings or her feelings into the light, there's a supernatural thing that happens to connect people. What else?
Sharing time exclusively with each other.
Okay, and you know what? One of the good things about male focus is that when I do focus on Susan, I actually focus so well the rest of the world disappears. When I swing my gaze from fixing the car, and she's over here and she's out of the loop so she doesn't exist, to focusing on her, the car doesn't exist now, only she does. And guys, that's how you won your woman. Do you remember those long conversations you had till 2 a.m. in the morning when you were courting? Do you remember doing that? You won your lady when you did that. Why? Because you were developing intimacy, you were showing passion, you were saying, I cherish you, and she appreciated the fact that she knows you can get caught up with cars and boats and footy and all that kind of stuff, male stuff, and yet you focused on her till 2 a.m. You touched her heart. You touched her heart. Touched her heart. What are some other principles of romance?
Very special.
Okay, so she feels, I cherish you,
Yeah.
or, which equals you're special.
Yeah.
You are special. What else?
Listening to her.
Listening to her, which is communication. Keep them coming. Don't let me discourage you by just trying to I'm trying to keep it simple so there don't be too many items here. Romance is also about memories. So let me give you an example. Hypothetically, Percy over here invites me to go fishing with him on a chartered fishing trip. in 3 weeks' time on a Saturday. And so, but I know Susan already by default, she's thinking there's nothing else on, and women go, by default, my time is always hers. If there's not something in the diary, this 24/7 woman thinks that I belong to her to go shopping with. By default. So the only way, and here's a clue, guys, is you have to plan ahead. If you want to do something special, you got to plan ahead, prepare the ground, alert them to the fact that the default isn't going to work on this Saturday. So she's thinking I'm going shopping with her. I've decided to go fishing with Percy. Now, is she going to be disappointed that I'm not going to be there with her? Yes. Why? Because she wants to, it's like she wants to miniaturize me and stick me in her shirt pocket and cart me around 24/7. I'm talking about women who still are in love, not the ones that we've alienated. Right? My wife wants to miniaturize me and take me everywhere. Now, I can't do that. That would suffocate me. I do need to get around to that sometime tonight still. So what do? Do I cave into her and say, well, because you're going to be disappointed, I better tell Percy I'm not going fishing, and so I can be there for you and go shopping with you? No, I don't need to do that. Guys, that's what romance is for. Romance is to fill up the love tank so she doesn't feel lonely when you're not there. The memory of you doing something wonderful with her will keep her going for the weekend. So hypothetically, and I'm not saying, I'm not teaching you guys to manipulate this, please. It's a reality though, that if I'm going to be gone on the Saturday, on fishing, and she had her heart set on me being there with her, why don't I take her out Friday night? Out to a nice restaurant. Have a really nice time, have a nice bottle of wine or whatever, and a fond memory will develop, and she'll go on a Saturday afternoon, when Percy and I are doing our thing, she'll go, oh, Daniel, oh, that was just such a nice night last night, and I just so appreciated it. It was just so lovely. It so touched my heart. The reminiscing she will do on a Saturday takes the place of the real Daniel who's not there.
Yeah, we've got another one down there, which is unexpected and unplanned surprises.
Okay, but can I say unexpected and surprise thing, you have to be careful. In the context of romance, it is, the reason why it works is because it's unexpected. She goes, you thought of me, you made me feel special. That's why it works. But I'll tell you how it doesn't work in a minute, okay? So, surprise.
For instance, we, some weeks ago, decided to have a cup of coffee in a different area from where we live, so we drove up.
Yep.
We walked down the street and I saw a nice dress shop. I said, why don't we go in and have a look? So we did, and she got an outfit, and then we had a cup of coffee.
Well done. Well done.
It's fast. Well done.
Okay, but there's
only one point though.
It's hoping.
Okay. But there's two trip ups. Trip up number one is that romance is about also reminiscing, but it's all about savoring the good thing that's coming.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when Susan and I like to go up to Queensland if we can afford it. And Susan, when she knows she's going, enjoys the thought of getting away for week after week after week until we actually get on the plane, and then the enjoyment stops for her. Now reality set in. The fantasy's no longer there. The sentimental looking forward thing has not changed. With me, it's different. I'm not enjoying it until what? My bum's on the seat, and I can go, the thing's actually in the air now, and I can let go. then I start enjoying it. So there's two caveats about this. One is, if you've got something nice planned, keep it unexpected still, but you could say something like, honey, in a week's time, I've got a special surprise for you, where I'm taking you away for the weekend. But I'm not going to tell you where we're going. Now that would work because she gets the anticipation and the special, I'm making this thing special for you. Now, another time when this doesn't work is if you went like this. I'm taking you away camping tomorrow to the Alpine National Park. She's gone, but I haven't taken a shower, I don't have my hair gear, I don't have my makeup, you rat, you should have given me a week's notice. Okay? So, you're going to have to, that thing there has to be in the context of this for it to work. It's not just a surprise, that's the issue. Okay, so I've mentioned two other things. We have anticipation of a good thing. We've got reflection or reminiscing. Reminiscing. I don't know how to spell that. Reminiscing about what happened yesterday or last week, something really good. Anticipation, reminiscing. Just flip over your sheet. Go down to romance principles. So she needs to feel special through the event. That is, you're saying I cherish you. The romantic event needs to be memorable. So anticipation, reminiscing has to be memorable. There has to be something about it that's unusual. Not just every day sitting down watching the same TV program. That's not romance. She needs time to anticipate the special event. She'll feel special when you went out of your way to produce the romance. Know her likes and dislikes, guys. Your lady is different from mine. That's why I want you to think in terms of principle. You need to apply those principles to your lady, not follow what works for Daniel Fengler, because Susan is my partner, not yours. Share your feelings. There will be a banquet for it. You know that intuitives love hearing feelings. You can starve them by just not sharing feelings with them. To them, it's like a banquet. Have you ever wondered why a lot of women absolutely adore, love, cherish getting together with a girlfriend for coffee? It's not about the gossip, although that can be a problem. It's the fact that they share their feelings with each other that they haven't been able to share with their husbands. My wife is my best friend and vice versa. I protect my wife's emotions, so I get to hear her feelings. Her girlfriends don't get to hear the feelings as much as I get to hear them, because I'm available to them. If you're not a good listener, then don't be jealous of the fact that your wife is sharing her feelings with another woman. They need it. They need it. Okay, just flip back again to romance school. So we've jumped ahead a little bit. I want to backtrack. But most women love a man. They want to spend a lot of time with him. It's as though she wants to miniaturize him and cart him around with her all day long. For most men, this intensity would be smothering, so they find ways of being on their own, like fishing or shed time. Here's some obvious statements. I think they're obvious anyhow. Most women are sentimental. Most men are factual. I think I shared with you that one day I was staggered because I just wrote a simple little note, no lovey-dovey stuff. It was, honey, I've gone to Bunnings, be back in a half an hour. Daniel, or love Daniel. I might have said love Daniel, I don't know, I can't remember. But, it's a factual little piece on a ripped piece of paper. The next thing I know, she had it hanging off a jewelry piece with a clip on a necklace. What I would have done is taken a piece of paper and gone, oh, that's nice, chucked it in the bin. She savored it. She savored it. She saved it and stuck it on her necklace. Going, what? Why would anyone do that? Because I'm not her. You with me? I'm not her. This is important to her. She's got a husband who loves her, who's there for her, and and she's just savoring all that. 2, romance is a learned skill. Guys, you can do this. You can do this. There's nothing here that I'm sharing with you that I haven't learned to do. If I can do it, you can do it. Remember the circle up here? I doubt that too many of you guys are as, one-eyed as my dad and I were. Very few of you would come close to that. Being a Prussian engineer son, hard to beat that. I'm as thick as they come, guys. Nobody here is as thick as me. Well, back then, as thick as I used to be. Nobody. And if I can do it, you can do it. So you can learn how to do this. It's not difficult. You have to engage, though, in the process. It's not going to, no one's going to rip the top of your head off and just pour in romance ideas. You gotta interact with this woman and make it work. Romance is remembering the good times. Romance is anticipating good things. And by the way, you need to do that with your kids as well. Memories. Develop memories for your kids. It doesn't matter that you went camping and it got rained out. It produced a memory. Keeping promises is the same as keeping trust. We've talked about that already. Now, let me show you this other thing I was talking about. We've been talking about the woman's side. Now let's talk about the guy's side. Guys, we can feel suffocated when there's too much of this estrogen running around the place. The feelings and the touch and the lovey-dovey and the interaction and the intimacy and all that. Most guys can't handle 100% dose of this stuff. And that's not wrong. No one's saying you got to become a woman here. That's not wrong. If you're in partnership with a woman, then she has to learn about you and what makes you tick and what's important to you. And it's not surprising that some of you run off to your shed or your fishing boat or your sport or the gym or whatever. All legitimate stuff, as long as it's not another woman. Okay? So how does this thing work? Let's just say we've got a bloke, we've got a gal here, and they just had a fight. So Percy, can I borrow you for a minute? So we've just had a fight. Percy, in my example here, is the lady. And now I'm going off to my cave. You've heard the expression going to the cave, haven't you? Okay. So I'm now needing, because I'm feeling overwhelmed by the emotions, and I'm feeling overwhelmed by the feelings that are coming toward me. It's like her emotions are attacking me. I need some space. So I'm heading off to my cave. So I can't handle this anymore, and I'm walking away. Now, all you guys do this. You might not physically do it, but you turn off. You just turn the switch. You've learned how to be deaf towards your mother, didn't you? Think about it. Did you learn how to be deaf towards your mother? Yes or no? Yeah. Yes. Yes, you did. You flicked the switch. And, excuse me, physically present, but nobody's home. You've gone someplace else. You're thinking about your next fishing trip now. Physically you're there, but you're not. So whether I'm physically moving away or psychologically moving away, we all need space. I mean, women need space too, but I'm specifically saying that for guys it's very important. Thanks, Percy. Now, as this guy moves off to his cave for his space, what is she feeling?
Isolation.
She's feeling rejection,
Loneliness.
loneliness,
Disconnected.
loneliness, definitely disconnected,
Unloved.
potentially,
Definitely unappreciated.
etc., etc., etc. We could make a huge list there. Now, guys, is this fair? Is this fair that legitimately this guy needs some space, he's feeling suffocated, he's feeling overwhelmed, he's moved away in the relationship, and yet she's feeling all those things? Is that fair? Yeah, it's not fair. But it's reality. It's reality. Let me just pick up one word here. All those are good, but let me just pick up this rejection. Because males and females, and the women are the ones that really want to be in a relationship more so than the guys do, they will always come back to relationship. It's like women are on this big rubber band. You can stretch the rubber band, but when you say, honey, I'm sorry, I really screwed up there, please forgive me, that rubber band just pulls them back in. If you've got a loving woman that you're in a relationship with, you do not have to manipulate them in the relationship because they want it. They get pulled back in. So she's feeling rejected right now because she sees the back of him. You know, remember, Percy was standing there? I had my back to him. He's feeling isolated and rejected, and I can't take you anymore, and I'm going to leave you be. And guys, there's some of you, the ladies that you're connecting with, their dads did desert them. Their brothers left them. Their dads deserted them. They walked away. They didn't just walk away for a minute, they walked away forever. And if you're married to a woman whose father walked away from him, you've copped a bit of pain. Because you're, on a heart level, you are an abuser. It's called transference. She's transferred the anger and pain toward her dad onto you. I don't want to get too far into all that kind of stuff. All I want you to see is it reasonable that she's feeling rejected? Yes or no? From her point of view. From her point of view, yes. From her point of view, yes. From the guy's point of view, no. Because we didn't intend to reject her. We just needed some space. If the truth be known, guys, the cave looks like this, doesn't it? We're in there feeling sorry for ourselves. True or false? True. We're licking our wounds. True or false? True. And we need that. I'm not saying we don't need it. We need it. We need it. So it's totally legitimate for this guy to be doing that. But the unintended consequence is she's feeling rejection. And here's where the really tricky bit comes. When she's feeling rejection, Satan comes along and says, what? He doesn't love you. He doesn't love you. Because if he did, he'd still be there. He wouldn't be walking away. So this woman's now just been injured in two ways. One, she's feeling rejection. It's felt rejection. It's not real. This guy didn't reject her. I mean, mind you, if he really did reject her, it's so much more powerful. But we're taking the best case scenario. It's a loving husband walking away. She's feeling rejected. And then to add insult on injury, Satan comes along in her period of vulnerability and gives her what 2 Corinthians 10 calls a vain imagination. See, he didn't really love you. If he really loved you, he wouldn't go fishing with Percy. If he really loved you, he wouldn't go into his cave right now. So guys, how do we counteract it? How do we stop that from happening?
Tell them you need some time out.
Exactly. One, just be honest. Just be honest. Honey, I need some time out. Honey, I need some space. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. Be honest. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. It's all just, it's just crashing in on me. Susan, when you see that glazed look in my eyes, take pity on me. I'm just feeling overwhelmed. Just be honest. Just be honest. I'm so focused, honey, right now on this other thing. Business is just driving me crazy. Work is just so hectic right now. I'm sorry I've left you out of the loop. I'm sorry I've ignored you. Just be honest. Remember, respect is more important than whether she's angry or not. She'll respect you for being honest, even if she's upset at the time. What else besides I need some space?
Don't spend too much time there, come back.
You do have to come back, so
Yeah.
give her a time frame. So, honey, I need some space right now. Look, how about I have a coffee this afternoon when I'm feeling a bit, I've got my balance back. Give her. If you're pulling away, whose responsibility is it to come back? Yours. So if this guy's walking away, it's his responsibility to walk back. We don't want her chasing you. The absolute worst thing I've ever seen is when guys try to go into their cave and the women are pursuing them into the cave. That we want to stop that at all costs. It's not good for anybody. Everybody's going to be upset by that. Don't let them come into your cave. So you need to go off and have some space. And if they chase you into it, you need to make an arrangement for her not to do that anymore. How do we stop Satan from saying he doesn't love you?
Tell her you love her.
Exactly. It's a guys, this is a blank sheet here. Blank. If you don't say I love you or I care for you or whatever the thing is that she's fearing, if you don't say that positive thing to encourage her and support her and protect her, Satan will tell her the opposite. If Satan is saying to you, hypothetically, to your woman, you're ugly and no man would ever want you, what should you be telling her instead? You're beautiful, girl. You're beautiful. You're just the earth to me. You're like a star in the heaven that shines brighter than any other. Now, some guys are really good at that sort of poetry stuff. I'm not. I'm not. But, at the very least, men, tell her the positive things that you're thinking. I've said this before. If you got nothing else out of the 5 sessions, if you got this, you'd be halfway there already. Tell her the positive things that you're thinking. Don't keep your mouth shut. Open your mouth and actually verbalize the positive things you're thinking. Male culture is about keeping your mouth shut and giving a synthesis of things. Instead of 100 words, we want to boil down to 10. Just give me the guts of it. Women are the opposite. You need to expand the 10 words into 100. And some guys are better at it than others. You need to put in those words, whatever her fears are, you need to counteract them. If Satan says to her, he doesn't love you, you need to say, I love you. He doesn't care for you, I care for you. Now, it's really difficult in a heated argument to do it right then and there. So I'm not saying it has to happen right there. What happens right there is, I have previously told her that I love her. So when Satan comes and says, he doesn't love you, she goes, that's a lie. Satan, that's a lie. My husband does love her. He only needs some space right now, and he's walked away. And although I'm feeling rejected, it's not real. So they do the 2 Corinthians 10 thing. They cast down vain imaginations. That's what that is. Every intuitive, and there's some intuitives in this room as well, every intuitive is subject particularly to the vain imagination thing. Because if I'm sensitive to the Holy Spirit, I'm also sensitive to what? The demonic. It works both ways. It's a curse and a blessing at the same time. Same with rationalism. If I don't get Satan beating me up at night. I know people that get beat up, literally, physically beat up by Satan. I do not get beat up at night. Why not? Because I'm a bit of a thick-skinned rationalist. So that's good, I'm not getting beat up by Satan. But you know what's bad is I struggle to connect with God. So that insensitivity in the spiritual world is a curse and a blessing, as well as people who are sensitive, it's a curse and a blessing. It's a two-edged sword either way. Neither right nor wrong, it just is. Any questions on this before we move on? This is what you guys are producing when you legitimately go to your cave. Unintended consequences. Easy to fix. Tell her the truth. I need some space. I need a bit of break. I'm going for a walk. I'll be back in an hour. I can't do this anymore right now. I'm taking the dog for a walk. Just be honest. So, conclusion. How do we connect with these ladies and give them romance? 1, give women romance, making good memories to remember good times. 2, listen patiently until you're reasonably certain they've finished their thinking process. Guys, let me show you how a rationalist interacts with other people. What's happening? Lots happening inside. Internally, the wheels are spinning, and I'm processing stuff, and problem solving. But you wouldn't know it. Why not? Because I didn't communicate it. Now here's an intuitive. Oh man, Percy, I owe him $20, and hey, Fred gave me $80 the other day, and so. After I get Percy is 20, and thank God for Percy, he's just such a great guy, and I just love him. I really do need to give him a birthday card because he's such a nice man. But then I'll have $60 left, and let's see, what sort of stuff can I buy with that? Everything's out in the open. You actually see. It's a window. You can actually see what is going on. And if you get scared of that and you withdraw, because it's all too much for me, and all these feelings coming my way, and I might drown in all these feelings. If you do that, you're actually denying yourself the opportunity to see exactly what's going on. Instead of pulling back, you need to go forward. Go forward into it. Honey, you're really feeling angry about this, are you? Yeah, you better move. So, I'm sorry, but what's this all about? What's so important to you? That's when you're going to find out. You're not going to find out that when you go into your cave. Now, it's important for you to go into your cave. I'm not denying that. You've got to do it sometimes. But what I'm saying is, if you're always down there, your relationship's going down the gurgler if you're always down in the shed. So, listen patiently until they've finished their thinking process. Listen patiently to their feelings and express your own to them. Feelings to an intuitive are like food. 4, plan things in advance so they can relish the anticipation of a relationship-rich event. Remember, the reason they're going on a holiday with you is not because they particularly like sailing or boating or the car trip. The reason they like the car trip is so they can talk to you while you're taking the car trip. 5, always keep your promises or don't make any. A woman likes to anticipate, but if they're constantly disappointed by a male who doesn't keep his promises, they will stop trusting him. 6, find out what touches your woman's heart. And here's another thing I want you to do. I don't want you to just ask the question, 3 things that touch your woman's heart. I want you to do this, and I do this with couples. I give them 5 poker chips each. And I say to them, I don't want you giving this poker chip away unless your heart got touched by something your partner said or did. And then the next time you come back, I find out who's giving away all their poker chips. And that tells me a lot, doesn't it, about the dynamics of what's going on.
Sorry, would you mind saying that again?
Okay.
I was writing something else down.
All right. Let's say I gave you 5 poker chips.
Yeah.
And I'm in relationship with you. And you're to give me a chip when I do or say something that touches your heart. After a week, hopefully, if I'm making an effort, I will have 5 poker chips that you used to have. You'd given them to me because I touched your heart 5 times. So getting back to that list there, the surprise, or the feeling special, or the cherishing has touched me. And you're going to be surprised what you get the poker chip for, guys. You'll be astounded. You'll go, I gave her a diamond necklace and I'm going to get a poker chip. You don't get one. God, how could this be? And then you write her a little note, honey, I'm going to Bunnings, and it's pinned up on her necklace. And you get a poker chip for that. Oh, how does this work? Ask questions. Ask questions. Honey, I don't know how this thing works. It baffles me. I don't know what's going on here. Why didn't you appreciate the diamond necklace, and why did you put the note on the necklace? She'll tell you. My wife is my greatest resource in getting to know women. I pumped her for information left, right, and center. And then I've checked it out on other women. I go, for most of you ladies, does this work? My wife says this is what's important to you. Does that work for you? Oh, yeah. Because I used to think Susan was just a fruitcake, you know?
That's another thing.
We'll just rub that out.
You know, we've talked about all of this stuff, guys. There's nothing new here. We're very transparent with each other. And the reason why some of you are laughing is because you've thought the same about some lady in your life. Well, let's stop there, guys. A couple of things. One, I'm going to give you this little pamphlet. 2, for those of you that skipped or couldn't attend some of the meetings, I've actually made DVDs now. So it's not just the raw form, it actually plays in your DVD player.
Right.
So I've got some for loan discs here. If at the end of the course, and Doug needs to talk to you about some things, but if at the end of the course you'd like to actually buy a DVD, then I can sell them to you either one per set, each session, or the set of 5. So the set of 5 will be $35, and the individual ones haven't made up my mind yet, but 8 to 10, something like that. So they are for sale, and you can pick them up. Just let me know in advance if you'd like a set. Let me pray for you, and then Doug will come up and talk. Father, help us to not be so self-centered, but to live beyond us. You encourage us to live beyond us in mission. Overseas mission and local mission, you ask us to give our tithes to go beyond us. Help us to go beyond being just a self-centered male. And teach us how to be romantic with the women that count. And we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.